Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today in the arena we are checking out Savage Hunter, the brawl deck built around Korvold, the Fey Cursed King. This is the final deck on our little brawl tour, so we're not going to spend too much time looking at the deck except for mainly the commander, which runs this particular ship entirely. So not often do I look at the flavor text of a commander, but right here we have to. Quote, transformed at his own wedding, he promptly ate the banquet, the gifts, and the guests. That's a dragon red wedding right there. All right, so when this card enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. I love that this is any time you sacrifice a permanent. So that includes Witch's Oven when you sacrifice a creature to make 2 food tokens. When you sacrifice the food tokens, any kind of sacrifice, you will get a +1/+1 counter and draw an additional card. So this deck is all about setting up Korvold. And I think Korvold is the coolest commander. I think that the deck surrounding Korvold could have been so much better. There just isn't that much sacrificial fodder, and that's one of the tough parts about the deck. If you get a Dreadhorde invasion early so that you always have something to sacrifice, the deck is on a completely different level from when you have, say, a Priest of the Forgotten Gods but not many other creatures. An Evolution Sage isn't something you really want to sacrifice after you pour 3 mana into it. As you see, there are no 1-drops. There aren't 2-drops such as little goblins that make other goblins or zombies that make other zombies, which are in the format. So the deck is a little bit awkward to play. Maybe I just haven't hit my stride with it. It's definitely, I found it to be the most challenging of the decks. I'm curious to see how my games go today now that I've played a bunch of games with all of the other decks. And as usual, it's a fun format, and I learn a lot. There are a lot of decisions, so win or lose, we'll have a good time. Taste of Death is another one of my favorite cards in this deck, which is 6 mana sorcery rare. Each player sacrifices 3 creatures, you create 3 food tokens. May we have many food tokens, and may Korvold smash many faces. Let's go. Looks like we get Esper for our first opponent, the Layla deck. And then we have Temple of Malady and some land, Witch's Oven. We'll have to find a red source, but I like that we have Orzhov Enforcer. It's one of the better things to feed to Korvold if we can't get food on the battlefield quickly. I'm not in a hurry to play the Witch's Oven. Do I keep you? So whenever a token enters the battlefield, does include when you sacrifice something to the oven. But I feel like I should dig more. I feel like I should dig aggressively for the red source. Feels bad, but I already have a 2-drop. I have a Plague Crafter. I really just want to make sure that you come out on time. Our opponent has chosen a Watery Grave tapped. And there is our red source. Okay. Let's get the Orzhov Enforcer onto the battlefield. Threaten those sick 1/2 beats with Death Touch. Afterlife. Against the Layla deck, we're going to need to be removal ready, and that can be hard. This deck doesn't have that much good removal, which feels strange for a JUND deck for certain. Plague Crafter, Bake into a Pie are some of the decent removal spells we have, but we don't have a lot of good ways to get the Mighty Commander off the battlefield, so we kind of need to hope our opponent doesn't play around our Plague Crafter too much. We are in a little bit of danger here. Thrashing Brontodon is a good card against our opponent's deck. It's very tempting not to play it here so that I can use it on an enchantment or artifact later. Playing it for beatdown could walk into a Kaya's Wrath, which is a feature of the deck. So instead I want to get the Witch's Oven down, and I don't want to play this until I also have a target so I can get value out of it at the same time. The opponent's deck revolves a lot around enchantments or artifacts. Check out my Esper video if you haven't already. Alright, the opponent plays right into the Plague Crafter. That's good for us. So we'll go ahead and lay down the Stomping Ground. We can attack for a damage first. The opponent won't block. That Death Touch. Or if they did, we'd be so happy. But here we go. Let's craft some plague up in here. And this is good. We have something to feed Korvold as soon as Korvold enters the battlefield with our 1/1 token. We could also sacrifice it to the Witch's Oven first and then give a food to the Korvold so that we'd have a token left over, which is a pretty good play. Witch's Oven is a fun little card. Blood-Soaked Altar is a very dangerous card. It's easy to remove, and the demons are pretty easy to remove for the Esper deck, which leaves it in a very value-negative place, which is not where you want to be in these grindy games. When you're giving up 2 life, discarding a card, and sacrificing a creature to make the demon, and the demon dies, you feel pretty bad, even if you can do it again. If only it were sacrifice a permanent like Korvold is. We could sacrifice food. Scrabbling Claws. Our opponent is committing their artifacts now. They were trying to save those to go with Alayla, but now instead with Alayla back in the command zone, the artifacts are coming down. If our opponent doesn't have a land, they're going to want to prioritize hitting that land drop. So I thought they might sacrifice the claws there to draw the card, but they're keeping the claws. And they don't have the land. That's very good for us. A fine finality off the top is not good against Scrabbling Claws, but that's okay. Let's get our attack in first. Now let's sacrifice the token to the oven so that we get 2 foods. Because the token is what I would sacrifice. Oh, it's just 1 food. What's 2 foods? There's something where you sacrifice to get 2 foods. I should read the cards though. It'd be smart. We just kind of did a loop-de-loop for no particular reason there. And the card I drew there is Mayhem Devil. Let's hope nothing too bad happens to our Curse King. Don't do it. Oh, stop touching my creature. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But another good reason to hold the Brontodon is because of Prison Realm, which is a card in the deck. Also, Conclave Tribunal is in the deck. So either one of those, good reasons to hang on to my Brontodon. But you can see we have some underpowered cards in the deck. Alter and Vindictive Vampire aren't really where we want to be most of the time. Ooh, the Eagle. Okay. That's not too bad. We can work with this. So what are we sacrificing? So every time that Korvold attacks, we have to sacrifice a permanent. What should we sacrifice? I can sacrifice the Plaguecrafter and get it back, but I can't because of Scrabbling Claws, so we can't expect to actually get it back, which is a bit of a pain. I think I might just play out a Vindictive Vampire and sacrifice a Vindictive Vampire. But we do get the double sacrifice here. We do it things right, using the Oven. Gets a sacrifice and a card, and then attacking with the Korvold gets another sacrifice of the food token and a card. And remember, every sacrifice is a card, so we want to maximize our sacrifice. If that's a weird thing to say, but that's what we're doing. Those claws, are they going to do something? Keep it coming. Rhythm of the Wild. Can be good. It's a little late to the party. But with our opponent at 10, bringing some surprising beats out of nowhere can't be too bad either. Opponent waiting for the last possible moment to use their Scrabbling Claws. No! Okay. Interesting. There's Frogify, an enchantment. Haha, the Brontodon. The Brontodon will bring us glory. So, Frogify loses all abilities and becomes a frog. Still a 4/4, thankfully. And this is Animating Fairy's Adventure Mode, Bring to Life, which turns a non-creature artifact into an artifact creature with 4+1/+1 counters. So, we got a 4/4 Golden Egg and an Empyrean Eagle to deal with. And now our opponent goes for the claw move. Claw coming at you. You're afraid of the claw. Or for you cartoon fans, Dr. Claw.
Next time, Gadget. Next time.
What do you think? How's my doctor? How's my good Dr. Claw? So we could run out the Rhythm of the Wild. Don't particularly like that. I would rather get another creature on the board, especially one that triggers some of our sacrifice effects. So I like Mayhem Devil, Thrashing Brontodon, Sacrifice Brontodon, free up our Froggy Boy, or our dragon. We also get the effect of the Brontodon. Or the effect of the Mayhem Devil, I should say. Which, I could deal one to the egg and then attack with the Crafter, but I think going face here is perfectly fine. And now you're back. Did I miss lethal? Sacrifice, sacrifice. I missed lethal. So what I could have done is targeted the eagle and then sacrifice a creature, then sacrifice the token. That would kill the eagle and this would attack for 9. Oopsie. Can't win them all. Now the opponent will have to chump with the eagle, which is still, I mean, it's good for us, but I'm a little bummed that I missed a lethal. I'm sure all of you in chat, in comments, you are bummed that you didn't get to point it out to me. Tell me how bad I am at Magic. All right. 7 life. Mortify. Let's see, if we go to the graveyard, the claws might exile you. But it means our find will likely resolve, and if our opponent taps out, which they might to play this 2/2 flyer, it's interesting. If the opponent tries to exile it with the claws, yeah, let's go to the graveyard. If the opponent tries to exile it with the claws, it can go back to the command zone then. That should let the opponent know something's up, though. They don't want to take down the claws here if they absolutely don't have to. Okay. So I could exile you, yeah, and then we can put you into command. That way I don't lose the card out of the graveyard. It's 7 to play you now. Big old Korvold, but we get to get back 2 very important cards for the matchup. I think that's worth it. Opponent debates some attacks, decides not to. We'll play out a land. Let's sort out our plays. So we want to find, we have 8 mana. We want to find one of these 2. What's the rest of the turn look like? We can play Rhythm of the Wild, or we can play Sire Conrad, which says whenever a creature dies or is put in the graveyard from anywhere or leaves the graveyard, it does 2 damage to the opponent, and their life total is very low. So what I like the most is playing Conrad first and then using Find, because that will trigger Conrad when 2 creatures leave the graveyard. Also, if the claws exile a creature from the graveyard, that also triggers Sir Conrad. So we get you back. Trigger, trigger. Now we still have a damage from a sacrifice to the oven if we need it. Down to 5 though. We've got the opponent on the ropes. Let's pass the turn. Our opponent's on 8 mana. 6 of them could play Alayla. If there's another artifact or enchantment to play with her, it's very good. Builds a nice large battlefield. Alayla has lifelink, so we really want to keep her from attacking, and I don't have an immediate answer. Okay, so I could sacrifice and then exile to do another damage, but I don't think it's worth it. What would that do? Get in 2 damage? I think we can do better than that next turn. So the opponent did not have another artifact or enchantment to play yet. That's a big deal. This can blow up the egg. This says whenever another creature dies. It includes the opponent's, which is a little different for this type of card. And I think, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting last turn. Oh my. Man, if I had 1 more mana. But this should be able to do a lot of work. And with the opponent at 5, I bet I can find a lethal line, if I'm not a complete idiot. So Judith onto the battlefield is 2 damage per death, so Oven is 1. Then this is a 3rd damage. if it's a sacrifice. So that's 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, 5, 6. Should be able to get there. So let's go after your egg. Trigger, trigger, trigger. Ping, ping, ping. And the Witch's Oven for the final coup de grace. And it looks like we're going to ping our way to success on this one, and that's game. This hand can't play the Judith because this is red-black, this is colorless, but we can play a Krenko on 3, and if the opponent doesn't have a quick answer, Krenko is very strong. I'm going to keep the hand on Krenko alone, but I don't... It's not that quick of a hand, it's not that great of a hand. Vindictive Vampire? Come on now. Alright. Thorn Mammoth, a super strong card that we saw in the Bant deck. One thing I was wrong about when I did that video is that this had to fight. The wording's a little interesting. You can have it fight up to 1 creature, so you can select 0. Thank you very much for all of you in comments who pointed that out. Command Tower in the house. Yeah, we're facing a good one. This deck is a real pain, but can the opponent answer the Krenko? Oh my. Well, that really hurts because we can't give Krenko Menace here. We can't play the Angrath because of our Cryptic Caves. We'll get the Vampire on the battlefield though. Will the opponent trade 2 mana creatures for Krenko? It's so critical for this deck to have its mana that no, they will not make that trade. So, you got your mana. What do you do with it? Here's Tome of Legends. And Keeper of Fables, a 4/5. Man, did I need to draw a good answer right there. It's so important to keep attacking this turn, but we aren't going to be able to. If we could have played the Judith, things would be different. So do we save the Krenko? Do we save our attack step? Or do we get in there and just make a bunch of creatures and hope to play Judith next turn? I feel like we have to try. I feel like the pressure is worth it. It's so... that tap land hurts so much. Taking this turn off hurts so much. The control deck is so strong that we do have to keep the pressure up. We have to end this game before Shulane does too much work. And oh no! Our opponent beat us to the Mammoth. Ramping into Mammoth is one of the most dangerous things they could possibly do to us. Okay, the Keeper gets busy. I think I just have to let that go, let the opponent have a card. And I have to stay aggressive. And it's such a losing battle too. Man, these turns have turned out awkward. But I think we play out Judith. Disincentivizes blocking a lot. Uh-huh. So, where do we deal the damage? Do we take out the Engineer? No, never mind. Doesn't work that way. Judith doesn't deal the damage when a token dies. Down to 10. Next turn, most certainly the Mammoth will fight the Judith somehow. Or we just die. Yeah, that's something. Holy crap. That's why this deck is the best. That's why this deck is the best. Okay, we're playing the Mirror. We have Crater Maker, which is a good early card. Can remove some of their key threats like Priest of the Forgotten Gods. Plague Crafter as well. So I think I'm keeping this despite not having all my colors. I'm going to put some faith in the deck to deliver. We'll see if my faith is misplaced. Leyline Prowler doesn't make me feel better. So in the Mirror, you never want to be sacrificing your lands to Korvold unless you have literally a tremendous flood of lands. That is one of the keys. You want to play Korvold pretty often because there isn't that much removal between the decks, but you don't want to sacrifice land. So it's all to make sure that you set up things worth sacrificing. Having food tokens, having the Afterlife creature, having Dreadhorde Invasion, those things matter a lot in the Mirror. So the opponent plays out a Pollenbright Druid. Do we just want to make them sacrifice it? No, I don't think so. Instead, let's get the Oven online. And I don't even want to trade my Crater Maker for the Druid because the Crater Maker can target something more relevant, but we'll see what happens. If I go another turn without green mana, it's going to start really bringing down my gameplay. Alright, I'm not going to block. This isn't a trade I want. The Crater Maker is much more valuable. And the opponent sees it and goes for Plague Crafter. That's interesting. So I could sacrifice this and discard a card from my hand. Since I have green mana in my hand, I think, yeah, we'll take this off the board. So the opponent has to give up their Plague Crafter. Now I have to discard a card. So we'll give up one of my green cards. And Savvy Hunter is the card I'm going to give up. It just has a hard time getting in there, and you rarely get to use the extra ability, even though it is nice with the Korvold. And there's the green source. The ramp for mana for the Prowler, in my opinion, is where the real value is. I can Korvold next turn, but I don't have something good to sacrifice yet, so I almost want the opponent to kill my Prowler. That way I can sacrifice it to the Oven, get a removal from them, then sacrifice that to the Korvold. Signet, the Mana Rock. The Oven. Okay, our opponents played out their artifacts. Let's see what happens. Like I said, you never want to be sacrificing lands to the Korvold. So am I going to do it? It feels really important to have this online, especially when the opponent's very likely to play theirs. I could sacrifice the Oven. The Oven's a really good combo with the Korvold, though. Like, really good. Going to send in the Prowler, get my life, and yeah, I'm going to give up a land, which is something you heard me, I said don't do this, and every now and then there's a situation you gotta break your own rules. Sometimes you gotta break your own rules. You gotta be like the cop in Lethal Weapon and Die Hard or anywhere else, and you don't play by anyone's rules, even your own. There's a baked into the pie. We don't want the opponent to have the food token. We want the food token. So we sacrifice Head to Command. And we do get to draw the card from that. And there's our 2 food tokens. So if the toughness is 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens. I really need to just read my cards. So in the last game, or 2 games ago, I said I was surprised I got 1 token. That's because I sacrificed a small creature. When you sacrifice a big creature, you get more food. Makes sense. Flavor. So we've got Death Sprout. That is most certainly for our opponent's Cursed King. We've got this egg to play. We definitely want to ramp up. We want to be ready to play our dragon next time. But I think we'll get the Captain of Chaos going. Ramming speed, yes, yes. Now I wish I had my food sacrifice machine back. Keeping the Plague Crafter hasn't quite worked out, but at some point I'm sure Plague Crafter will matter. The removal in this deck, when you gotta make the most of it. There doesn't seem to be nearly as much as JUND should have, and there's a concede. The opponent has decided they're too far behind in resources. They don't like the idea of running out their Korvold. I'd at least try it, see where it goes. If I don't have removal, you can run away with the game, but the opponent packs it in. Its hand has our colors, plenty of land, and a removal spell. A terrible card in Vindictive Vampire, but we'll try to make it work. Honestly, I don't know what they were thinking with some of the additions to the deck. Vindictive Vampire is one that just has me... ugh. So we want to save the Evolving Wilds if possible to use with the Korvold, because we get to draw a card when we sacrifice the Evolving Wilds. And our opponent has the Signet, so they have good ramp, we have good ramp. They went first. It's dangerous. We'll have good mana, they'll have good mana. This could all come down to who has a removal spell and when. And here's Savvy Hunter, but no other play for the turn. Missing a land drop, of course, is brutal. So we could bake this into a pie, but I think that is saved for the Korvold pretty exclusively. Here, I like the play. Let's start with the egg and try to decide whether or not we want to Evolving Wilds to set up Korvold for next turn. If we draw an untapped land... Okay, we didn't. So the ambitious play is to play an Enforcer here. But if we want to be absolutely sure that we get to Korvold as early as possible, I like playing Evolving Wilds. We have the egg to sacrifice to Korvold now. Green or black? I think I'll take the black. Head north to the wall. Take the black. Just a criminal, living out my life now as the shield who guards the realms of men. Our opponent has their Orzhov Enforcer. This is pretty good. They're setting up their Korvold for next turn, but we get our Korvold first because they missed a land. And they still have to top deck the land to make it happen. The food token grows the Woodland Champion, which is nice. But this card sticking is what it's all about, much like the Hokey Pokey. So, let's see what happens. We are setting ourselves way back if the opponent has a removal spell. If they can bake Korvold into a pie here, if they can make Dragon Pie, it's very, very bad for us. Plague Crafter would be equally stressful. Instead, it's Krenko. No removal. It's a big deal. It's a big win for the team over here. So we can start looking into next turn and Moldervine Reclamation. Wow. That's nice. Don't know if it's the play. It's a lot of commitment. I think what I like better is a Mayhem Devil, because Mayhem Devil in this matchup is insane, since whenever the opponent is also looking to sacrifice things, and this triggers for both players. And then I could also get the Enforcer online and sacrifice the Enforcer to Korvold. So I like that a lot. And the other option would be to have a Brontodon on the battlefield, which is nice, but it can definitely wait till later. Our own Krenko doesn't matter nearly as much. Power up. Saving the land to play after combat, just in case we draw a land that must enter the battlefield tapped. And where does our damage go? We only have this one sacrifice, so face is the place. And there you go, a land that must enter the battlefield tapped. Now we have the option of having more mana next turn because we waited to play the land until after we'd drawn all the cards. A little, like, level up strategy for some people. Piece of the Forgotten Gods. Makes Mayhem Devil trigger, so until they get rid of our Devil, the Priest is not that good for them. And they're sacrificing the food to gain life. What else does that trigger? Nothing. It's only one thing, so I may as well head face with this. Kind of a giveaway that our opponent doesn't have much else going on. And here comes an Enforcer, which we're definitely taking that damage. You can sacrifice to kill the Priest or the Krenko. Priest, like I said, is not great for them yet, but it does draw cards and get deeper in the deck. There's a lot to be said. You can also play the Reclamation this turn and just really value hound our opponent. But then we leave the priest. I think I'm okay. Well, if I sacrifice the token, then I'm not okay with that. Alright, I think it's going to be Vampire, Crater Maker, sacrifice, target the priest, sacrifice the token on the attack step. And if we're going to do the Crater Maker thing anyway, let's do it first. Oh, we could also blow up the land. Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's so rude. Plus we can kill the priest with the triggers from Mayhem Devil. That's a lot better. Sometimes I make a plan and then I realize how stupid I am on the fly. I always tell the sports teams I coach to marry the plan, or date the plan, don't marry the plan. Be willing to change the plan when something better comes along. Down to 11. And like I said, sometimes I don't play by my own rules. Oh, that was a different video. Gotta be like the cop sometimes in Lethal Weapon and Die Hard. You don't even play by your own rules. Be like Steven Seagal. Devil on devil action. Whew. But if the opponent can't answer the sky, the Korvold in the air, I don't think they have a real chance in this one. The Savvy Hunters coming in, the Woodland Champions coming in, we can take all this damage. There are some options, like trading devils, but I think that letting, like, I do not want to give up my devil. That can't be right. Alright. It looks like all we have to do is wrap this up. Let's see, this goes to 9, 10, so I just need one more sacrifice. And I've got it. Actually, it's 11 because of the vampire, right? So, yeah, get that food off. Get that food out of here. Let's go face. Vampire triggers. Korvold triggers. We attack, we sacrifice. One more thing. Paradise Druid will do. Or we can just attack. Trigger, trigger. Trigger, trigger. The writing's on the wall. Our opponent playing it out like a champ. Taking big old pie-eating dragon to the face. I hope you enjoyed this fourth and final video with the Brawl pre-construct decks. I've enjoyed playing with them. Hopefully you can get some tips with this in time to play the deck yourself and feel like you might know a little more what's going on. With JUND, I can't stress enough, you don't want to sacrifice lands to your Korvold, but you also don't want to sacrifice your better board presence. So it's really important to play in such a way that you hit your land drops, as many of them as possible, and that you set up things to sacrifice to the Korvold like food tokens or tiny creatures like your Pollen Bright Druid, so that you're gaining advantage. You can't afford to set yourself too far behind in this format. Do not think I can just sacrifice a land here. It comes back to bite you almost every time. I'd like to thank my sponsors. Let's bring them back on the screen. CoolStuffInc.com, Esports Gold. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Please check them out. Click the link in the description. It really does help my channel out. It lets them know that you guys care, that I care, that we care, and they continue to financially support the channel so I can be here for you every day making content that is free for you. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.